Okay, so today I wanted to do a short video, and it's kind of an update on my VHT microhone. I bought a VHT microhone 800 about 6 years ago, and I did a video on it, specifically vapor blasting certain parts. I had a carburetor set that I had done for a 750 Kawasaki. What I wanted to go over is kind of my reviews on this machine overall, and then its strengths and its weaknesses, and some of the upgrades that I did over the years that I feel VHT should probably do as well, just to make it more user-friendly for small-time guys that don't have a huge air compressor to run it in different variants. One major thing I did was I replaced this pneumatic pump, and this is a brand new one I had here as a spare. I've actually gone through 4 of these pumps in the last 6 years. The problem with them is the valves are rebuildable, but the air end is not rebuildable on them, so you got to replace the whole pump. And depending on what vendor you get this pump from, it's anywhere between $120 and $200 a piece to get them, which kind of adds up after a while on a machine that I think I originally paid $850 for. Now they're at about $1,200. But this was, this is a piece that I just did. This is kind of what a before and after, because this is what these look like to begin with. So it does a great job. I'm going to get to and show the updates that I did on this though. So this is the microhone, and one of the main things you'll see right away on here, I'll flip this thing around, you'll see the back side of it is, obviously there's no pneumatic pump on here anymore. It used to be the pneumatic pump was mounted right here, and what it did was it sucked slurry off the top through this hose, and it blew it back into the bottom, and then it would split the flows off. So half of the flow went, or a portion of the flow went in the bottom to stir up the slurry mix in the bottom, and then the other half came up through the nozzle, which is fine. And that pump made sufficient volume to work what I deemed acceptable, but it wasn't optimal. You get a lot of pulsation from it, and you notice whenever it would pulsate was when the finish would get better, and then you had to stop and wait for it to pulsate again, which I thought was kind of annoying. And then the other thing that was happening is, like I said, the pump would actually plug up, and I found that if the only way to get this to work consistently, decently, I had to raise the level of slurry mix almost up to the suction level of the thing. Well, this causes a whole nother problem, because when the machine sits, it all clumps together as a solid mass. So anytime I had this thing sitting for more than a week or so, I would have to go in there with a stick and break up all of the slurry mix in the bottom. And then sometimes the slurry would get sucked up and it would plug up my hoses. So what I've done here is I separated the 2 functions of the pumping system into 2 completely separate functions. This smaller pump, what this does is this is my agitator. So this sucks off of this port here, blows into the bottom, and where the T was originally, I kept the one T that points towards the bottom, and I plugged off the top one. So all that's doing is just circulating the glass bead and the water to keep it in suspension in the water. The second pump, which is a bigger one, is the one it's sucking slurry off at the top, and then this is going into my gun. This pump, I believe, is rated at 8 gallons per minute, and I think this one is like 4 or 5. So the rating of gallons per minute is actually a little bit higher than what the other pump was. I found that though this pump does not make as much pressure as the pneumatic pump did. Originally, I tried running just this pump and replacing the pneumatic with it. Well, that didn't work. It didn't make enough volume to agitate the water decent and provide enough water flow. So this setup here actually produces substantially more. It's probably about 1.5 times more flow of water and slurry up through my gun, and it's just more reliable overall. This also has a second effect, and what that is it reduces the amount of airflow needed to run it. I have a 5 horsepower screw type air compressor. When I first started running this, I didn't. I had one of these Master Force, 20 gallon air compressors, and then I had a second little one that was just a hair smaller than that. And I'd have to combine the two to run it, and even that wouldn't run this machine consistently. You'd have to run it and let the compressors build up pressure again, let it run again. And even my 5 horse compressor, when I'm running it previously, it would start running, and the compressor would never stop. It could maintain the 90 psi, but it never stopped running. Now with this setup, because I'm not splitting off my pneumatics to the pump, and also have more water flow, so there's more back pressure in the main line for where the air comes in, this is using about half of what it used before. When I run this unit now, my compressor will actually not start running until I've been running for about a minute and a half, and then it'll run for about 30 seconds or so, shut off for another minute and a half, and then turn back on. So I can tell just by that it's using way less air than it was before. And in doing so, I also getting a better surface finish and more quicker surface finish because the volume flow is so much. So I'm going to show just running a part on here. And what I have is I have both pumps hooked into a terminal strip, so I can turn them both on and off at the same time, and then I still have my standard air hookup like we did originally. So I'm going to run one of these caps just to kind of give a synopsis of how this thing runs. And one thing I kind of wish they had on here was another window on the top, and I might just do that. I was thinking about cutting out a window on here and then putting a piece of clear plexiglass and keeping a light on here that I can keep mounted here all the time. Right now I use this and I just kind of drop it on the window, but if I forget that it's there and I tip the window up, I end up knocking it on the floor. So we're going to put our piece in here. I'm going to start up my pump. You can see it pumps a pretty substantial amount of fluid. And I'm getting a good slurry mix. Now hopefully you can see this in the video. But it is polishing it up pretty good. I'm just going to do a portion of this for the video. I'm not going to do the whole thing. But this has got a pretty good amount of force coming back on it, so it's really pumping a lot of fluid. And right now the amount of media I have in here, I have 2 gallons of water in here. I'm going to just pull this back out. I have 2 gallons of water, and then I have 2 cups, approximately this side. I think this is I'm not sure, this is either an 8-ounce or 12-ounce cup full of media. And this is the ultrafine media that I actually got this from Vaporhone. I think this is their 300 grit media. I also use some other grits depending on what I'm doing, because if I get parts that are really corroded, I'll use either this 140 mesh or this 100, 170 mesh for really corroded parts, because this stuff would just sometimes just take too long. So I'm going to pull my part out, and I'll kind of rinse this off. Uh-oh, dropping stuff. And as you can see, it made pretty quick work out of the backside of polishing that up. I obviously didn't do the whole thing, but I wanted you to be able to see the difference. Well, like I said, I feel this is, if you've got one of these machines or you're looking at getting one, I would highly recommend doing this update on it. You're going to save yourself a lot of, especially if you got a smaller air compressor, it just saves so much time than sitting there waiting for it to build up pressure. I've been running these two pumps now on this machine for about 8 months, and I haven't seen any degradation in the pumps. It seems to be working flawlessly. Both of these pumps are available on Amazon. Like I said, this is their, I think it's a 4 gallon per minute. These sell for about $62. And then this bigger one, which is like, I think 7 to 8 gallons per minute, this one sells for about $94. So, I mean, it's still a little bit more expensive than replacing the pneumatic pump, but I think overall, you just get a lot better performance out of it. So, all right, well, thanks for watching, and I hope this at least gives you a little bit better description on how this thing runs and possible updates. Thanks again. If you like the video, please hit subscribe or hit like on it. It really helps. Thank you.